Picked the wrong week and quit sniffing glue.
Send a coded message for Starfleet Commander, Priority 1. Federation Science Vessel Grissom arriving, Genesis Planet, Mutara Sector to begin research. JTS to Bond Commanding.
Aye, sir. Coding now.
Good morning. Welcome. We're at the beginning. It's Monday. It's the beginning of what's going to be a very strange week. Got a couple weeks left before Wonderfest, so I'm taking care of a lot of odds and ends. And I swore that I would not work on the Grissom until I got back, but I had a brain fart for an idea for a stand over the weekend, and I just can't get past it until I've worked it out. And the stand is going to help me when it comes to construction anyway, so I think it meets the criteria of not actually working on the Grissom, but doing some preparation. And this is basically what we've got. Of course it's top heavy that way because I haven't worked out all the dimensions. But it's basically going to be something like this done in copper that is going to be huge. And what that's going to allow me to do is sit the Grissom on it like that. Now the biggest thing that I've been able to determine with the Grissom is that all of the weight is this big deck plate. That's where all the weight is on that deck plate. So if I can support that, then that's gold, because everything else can either sit above that plate or hang off the bottom of that plate. But getting that plate taken care of, and I need something that is not obstructive of the ship because of the way the ship is built. Now this I can simply sit it like this and then pull it back so that it's sitting on it, and it won't ever have to be permanently affixed to that stand. I can just rest it on there, which means if I ever need to take it anywhere or move it easier, it won't be nailed down to a stand. And frankly, when I get a ship that big, like the Enterprise E or even the 1000 scale D and the big Reliant that I have, it's moving it about while it's still on the stand that is one of the main problems, or the main encumbrances. That's probably why you'll never see me take them to any shows, is because it's just a question of moving it and while it's still on the stand. So now that I think this will work, what I want to do is I want to go and I can figure out how many 90-degree pieces I'm going to need. I can go and do all of my copper shopping, my shopper copping, and I will also get a 3/4 inch piece of PVC, because I use PVC to mock up my lengths of things before I cut them in copper, because copper is, that's the money right there. PVC is very cheap. But I know I'm going to need the 90-degree bends, so I go ahead and buy those in copper right off the bat. But I know that I want the length of the top here and the length of the bottom to be the same, so that it has some weight to it. If I go longer with the bottom than I do with the top, that might take care of some of this rocking motion. So I know I need a 90-degree here, a 90-degree here, 2 more at the bottom, 2 more at the front here. So I need 6 90-degree angle pieces, and I want this length to be equal to. If I'm gonna slide it up like that, I can map it out on the small Grissom here, take it over to the big pieces, and then that will tell me how long those need to be. The only thing I'm not 100% set on is how tall I need it to be. I want it to be high enough that it sits up off the table, but figuring out that final height, this distance here, that might take some playing around with it. Alrighty, I'm back from lunch and a trip to the big box store where I got my copper fittings and my PVC mock-up pipe. As I've said, mock it up in PVC because it's you know, this piece here is like $2.50, whereas each of these pieces of copper is like $7 or $8. So we want to make sure we have our measurements right before we cut into this. But I know I needed 6 angles, so I'm going to start measuring and cutting the PVC, and we'll mock up something, and then we'll figure out our final dimensions from there, transfer that to the copper, and then cut it up, and then it'll be everyone's favorite game, Fun with Acetylene. Yes, you remember last year's thrilling chapter of Fun with Acetylene. I actually got away without burning eyebrows or any skin whatsoever, and all my fingers were intact. So we're going to see if the 2021 edition works out just as good. Hey, I've got the mock-up mocked up, and I know this will not hold the whole weight of the ship because it's PVC, but I want to see if the height and the relative dimensions are right. So I think what I need to do is pull that deck plate out, sit it on top, and see how it looks. I think that everything is going to be just fine at those dimensions. I mean, I could tweak it 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 an inch here or there, but I think keeping the nice round numbers, it's going to be easier for everybody concerned. But yes, there is enough underhang area for the pontoon so that you can see everything that's going on there, and still have it a couple 3 inches up off the ground. I think it comes up something like that, which isn't bad. And again, this is not attached to the ship in any way, so if I want to, years down the road, change a dimension, I could simply make a new one. But I think without my big fat arm in the way, maybe you could see it easier. But I think by the time you do all of that, that's going to give me some nice fine dimensions. So now that I know everything here is hunky-dory, I'm going to put all these parts away and measure out these dimensions on the copper. Okay, this little piece of modern art is almost ready. I've got all the pieces swapped out now for the copper. Last thing to do is to clean them up really well. The thing is, the copper is more loose than the PVC is actually, because there's nothing to grip it there. So what I need to do is sandpaper all of the edges of everything, get the flux out, and the solder and the torches and the rakes and the shovels and the peasants, and we're gonna do some brazing outside. And actually I can do this much laid down on the floor. That way I know all of the joints will be in the correct plane to each other. I can do all of these just like that, and then put it together with a combination square on it to make sure that it's squared up. This is what I like about scratchboarding. What started in my head as an idea over the weekend, started and then turned into this wire armature this morning, has now become this. Bum bum bum. The copper stand for the Grissom. Now I will of course be painting that, but at first I want to sand it up and grind down the not so elegant solder lines. And it was propane, not acetylene. Yes, I know I was using acetylene metaphorically, but it was propane. And when you set the part on it, it looks like this. Dun dun dun. Oops, let's get back so you can see it all in camera. There you go. Steady as a rock and twice as lovely as a rock. I just noticed just horribleness here that has to be, oh man, that's gonna have to be, I think that's supposed to be ground flat. Yeah, that shouldn't have any detail on it at all. Anyway, you could stand on that if you were of a mind to, and wait a lot less than I did. Welcome back everybody. It's Tuesday and it's the second day I'm working on a ship that I swore I would not start working on yet. But in making that stand yesterday, I came upon some issues that I really want to take care of. And most notably is this, well, let's get the Okay, there you can see, is this back edge. The top and bottom of this are very thin and very delicate. And there's a series of parts that go in here. And I feel that I need to put those parts in place simply as an act of protecting these edges. I know I'm trying to make a rationalization for why it is I'm working on this model when I said I wouldn't touch it until after I got back from Wonderfest. But two factors. A, I really want to get in to start working on this thing. And B, I got nothing else to do right now. So I want to take care of this. But these are paper thin, these two edges. And I want to put those pieces in so that they're protected. And I also need to clean up this edge and this edge. So, alrighty, I'm fitting these pieces into this back recess on the Grissom here, and of course it's resin, so you're going to have some sanding and some fitting. Now these pieces here, these filler pieces, you can see the pencil mark on them. They're that much too long. By the time I get this piece in here, and then this vertical piece, this horizontal piece is too long. I have the center piece that I know the length of, and I know it has to fit in this area, and I know, well, let me take that back, because I could put it in front of that, because this piece sits all the way to the, yeah, I bet you that's how it's going to have to fit, where this goes by, this sits on top of it. Okay, well, I don't have to trim that then. Let's get these guys glued in, and then hopefully that will eliminate the fragility back here. Morning, welcome back. It is Wednesday, and yes, I'm just going to admit it. I'm working on the Grissom. I did not want to start this as early as I have, but that's what life threw me, because the other things I wanted to work on have not arrived yet. So here we are. I have finished up detailing this trailing edge here. There was a couple of vertical pieces here and here that needed to be scratch built and put in place because they were not provided in the kit. And now we're coming to an issue really that you can't get around. And that is how you going to light this thing. Are you going to light this thing? If you plan on lighting this thing, you're going to have to cut some channels in it, because solid. I don't know if that's the greatest idea. Not going to second guess it, but this is solid. So that either means cutting out a channel with a Dremel or something, and then covering it back over when you're done and puttying that in, which is, I think, the way I'm going to have to go. Or you're running a conduit on the top, which means you're going to run a wire. Say you're going to run a wire like that, and then you're going to cover it over with something. Well, that just makes a raised detail that, unless you hide it very well, is not going to look right. I have drawn out on this piece here where the other piece is attached. Now, these are the pylons that go up to the long pontoon. This is the clear part that goes in the back where the engines light up. So this is the spot. If I was going to dig out, I would make this deep enough to put an LED in, or half the depth of an LED, because then I could dig into the clear part that attaches here. But I would still have to run a wire somewhere. Now, this up here is where the small dome goes, so it would seem natural that you would put a hole straight through there and light up the windows in the small dome. Everything that happens, flip this over now, everything that happens in this semicircle is covered by the big dome. So this is all the room in the world for anything you want to put in there, whether it's a battery, whether it's a switch, any of that. But you're going to have to be able to get to it. So how do we handle that? Well, when you put the dome down, do you put it down with magnets? Do you put it down and put a hatch in it or you put it down solidly and then put a hatch in it where you can slide a battery in and out. I really would like to resist the idea of putting any sort of transformer on this and running it through a wall for two good reasons. A, the way it's designed, it's the way, and it's going to sit in the cradle that I made. There's no real place for the wiring to run out without cutting yet more channels, and I don't want to have to cut any more channels than I have to. And the other thing is, there's just not that much lighting. You can get away with a battery on this because the amount of lighting is so minimal. There's going to be a few LEDs up in here to light the dome. There's one LED that goes down that lights the bottom dome. One LED that comes back here that's red that lights up that engine. And then all that's left is the navs and strobes that happen on the nacelles. And if I can't get those nacelles open, because they are also solid, if I can't find a way either by printing new ones that are hollow or channeling out for lighting in those, then that's that's a redundancy that I don't need to worry about, or that's a thing. See, there is a light here and a light here. And if I can't open up that engine to put those LEDs in, then it's no use trying to wire that, trying to chase a wire through there. Now I'm looking because I think there are also nav lights back here in the back corners. I'll have to pull the film out and see exactly where all the lights are going to be. I'm either going to have to sacrifice some of these lights, or I'm going to have to cut a lot more channeling than I want. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I obviously, if I'm going to cut wiring, I'm going to want to do it on the bottom side that you're not going to see, because like I said, the pylons come up here and the big pontoon sticks out right up in here somewhere. So getting into that or looking up underneath it is going to be easier to disguise your wiring. You don't want it on your top deck because, well, let me bring this back. You don't want it on your top deck because this is the most visible area. You can hide it in between decks a lot easier. Okay, this morning we're going to turn our attention to the big pontoon. The big pontoon, which goes on the bottom, which is the secondary hull. You will hear me call it many things. Many of them won't be kind. But we're going to call it the big pontoon. This is the bottom of the ship, and it's made up of these two big pieces. And I think I want to go ahead and put these together now. And not only because that's nice, big, and showy, but it's going to help me down the road when it comes to jockeying things to know exactly how big this is going to be and how much room I need to allow for it and all that kind of stuff. And it's not going to hurt anything because I can work on it even when it comes to wiring or whatever. It would be better off if I had this all nice, flat, and level, and true, and joined up together. I will not put the top half on it right now, but it will help me when it comes time to sanding things and making sure that they all fit and are joined completely, to have at least these two pieces together to pull that joint nice and tight, and then I might it'll tell me where I need to fill in with some putty to get that nice and tight. It looks like I need to sand out just a little bit right in here to get this joint to fit nice and tight. That's the only thing that's encumbering it a little bit. You see it rocking back and forth. So I'm going to get the Dremel out and sand that up, and then we'll get this pulled tight and epoxied together. Alright, I'm getting ready to put these two halves together, and the first lesson I learned today is it's a really bad idea to wear a black t-shirt if you are sanding resin. It'll get everywhere and you look a mess. You'll be happy to know, or you may not even care, that I spent a lot of yesterday going through a couple of t-shirt sites and picking out some new shirts because I realized that my collection had gotten quite stale as of late. which means I need to purge a goodly chunk of the ones that I've got that are no longer serving me my purpose, or more importantly, no longer fit my ever-largening frame. So look for some new background viewing material in the upcoming. And I went ahead and actually got some Aztec dummy t-shirts made up with my logo. So yay on me. Hopefully I'll have them ready in time for Wonderfest, in which case you should be able to spot me from a distance. I'll find out later if that was a good idea. But this seam now is as close as it's going to get. I can, as long as I make that gap even all the way around, I can fill that in with some putty or epoxy sculpt. But getting that uniform and getting this top level, that is the important goal. Everything else is secondary to that. I want to make sure that this is all of one plane. Okay, well, mail has just arrived, and something great came in the mail. So, to quote David Bowman, something wonderful. It is going to be the next big build, and I'll probably will interrupt all of this to jump on that. I will get this as far as I can maybe this week, and then we will jump onto the other thing, and it will take a great while. But here's the sneakiest of sneak peeks. It is bum bum bum, or bum 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 bum. It is the Mobius Jupiter 2. Now, I've built one of these before, but I have never built it this way. I am using the Mobius lighting kit. And the book of instructions for the lighting kit alone is bigger than the instructions for building the bloody thing. I wanted to, first I pulled everything out immediately because I wanted to check it, make sure it was going to work. Wanted to see all the blinking lights, and it does have some. It is a marvel. It is all mapped out. It is all labeled. It's got its own switches and everything built in. It comes with its own power source, which is a wonderful thing. You don't see me fishing around trying to find a transformer for it. Now it is designed to go for 5 volts, which means I won't be adding anything to this. I will just take it as it is and be done with it. But I'm not even going to unbundle it. I'm going to plug it in and show you some of the awe and mystery and wonder. Okay, we've got, there we go, there's a switch for all of it. Hopefully you can see all, there's the engine core, which is the important thing. And then it slows back down and stops. Fades up, ramps up, and comes up to speed. And as it speeds up, there's also a set of blinkers that go up in the upper dome. Of course, we've got switches for the whole thing. We've got, like I said, the whole Magilla is already pre-wired, so it goes in one big lighting trunk. And it's nice that you've got 2 different switches. You can run just the fusion core, or you can run the fusion core and the interior lighting. It's not all tied together. And then off again, fade off. So that's going to be a wonderful thing. You're going to follow the instructions to the letter to get this installed as it should be installed. I'm not going to be adding anything funky to it though. That's just building it as it is. I want to see how it looks once it's done. But that was the big project that I was kind of hemming and hawing. I was hoping it was going to come before now, but you know, with everything else going on in the world, the mail is not traveling as quickly as it should. So put all that, actually I want to study that, so I'll leave that out. But it tells you all of the holes you need to cut in the hull to get it ready. There's a lot of preliminary work you need to do to the floor pan before you even start building the thing. So that's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun build. Like I said, I've built one of these before, but not back when I was doing my weekly videos. So this will be the first time y'all get to see the thought processes, or lack thereof, when it comes to building a ship of that size. So we are back to we're back to the pontoon on the Grissom now, and this has been taped up, and the epoxy has had time to set up. Need to clean out a little space here where the epoxy splooged out. That is a correct modeling term, splooged. Clean that up, and then we'll sit this on it, and then these parts, which this is just a piece of sheet styrene that it needs to be trimmed down to fit, and then this is the other important joint, is getting that. Now I need to decide if I am, because these are obviously where the pontoons or the pylons come in on both sides, so I'm thinking I might want to add some additional support there, whether that is a screw or whether that is some brass rod, I don't know, but I do want to add some extra support there. And this I'll put in place and then trim to fit it. Glue that down. If I'm going to put any sort of access panel in here to get to any wiring or to get to any batteries, this might be the place to do it, because it's such an obvious lift that I could just lift that off, and as long as this seam is nice and clean when it goes back down, I could put some magnets along this edge here and just lift this panel off, because I've got all the room in the world inside here for a circuit board or for a battery pack. So we're going to have to think about that. That may be the solution to a lot of work I don't want to do on that upper deck, but we do need to see how heavy this is going to end up being. We do have a tail light here, a strobe back there, so I need to think about how to light that. I think there are marker lights somewhere on here. I think they may be up underneath the pylons. I'll have to pull the movie out and check that to see where those live. And yeah, I think that might be the best place to get my access. So, oh, the wheels, they are a-turning. Okay, this may be something that comes back to bite me later, but I think the next thing that I want to do is to go ahead and epoxy this piece down to this deck. And the reason I want to do that is it's going to give me much more stability on this piece of plastic, which will help me muscle it into place a lot better. It'll give me more of a direction to go in there, and I could center it up real nice here. Make sure that it's sitting in the middle where it's supposed to, and then it'll allow me to have more. It'll stiffen this piece up so that I can sand it more effortlessly, and then that just gives me this gap right here between the two that I need to address. I've got the back piece lined up with the back. I've got the front piece lined up with the front, so any flaw in the join in the center is going to have to be addressed there in the center. Plus, if I decide to make this whole thing removable, it'll give me more structure to do that as well. So let's do that. Oh, and I finally found a good use for all those styrofoam inserts that the resin bottles come in. Whenever I order Aztec, it comes encased in it's basically a square box with a round circle cut in it for the bottle of resin. I'll see if I'm looking around to see if I can find a full one of those, an entire one. Let me see. No, I don't see one. But anyway, so I cut it in half, and now I've got a little bed that I can sit this thing down in. So never throw away your packing material, kids, because you never know where they're going to come in handy. Okay, so the epoxy is setting up, is curing. I've got tape on here to keep the clamps from wanting to slip and slide down over that. In some places where the arc is too steep, I'm actually using sandpaper on both sides of the I've doubled it, backed on itself so that it's sandpaper on top of the tape, and then the clamp is clamping onto the sandpaper, which gives it more grip so that it is not sliding down just like that. That's the occupational hazard of clamping a rounded surface. So I'm trying to do my best here. I will take another piece of sandpaper. Doesn't have to be elaborately cut. I'm just something that's got a grip to it. Just sticking it on. There you go. That keeps the clamp in place, keeps it from wanting to ride down. There you go. So you cure, and I think it's time for lunch. Hey everybody, it's Thursday. It's the gateway to the weekend. I've got the camera up on the sky cam position today so that we can see more of the table. I am starting to work on some more infrastructure here because it needs to get done. It's a good time to do it. It's close to the end of the week. I think I will do this bit of structuring on the Grissom and then set it aside and start the next project next week, and then wait till after I come back from Wonderfest to really dive into this. But anybody who's building a Grissom knows that this is a sticking point here. It's where the bottom of the pylon attaches to the pontoon. There's not a lot of meat there. Not a lot of meat there, and it could go horribly, horribly awry. So I'm trying to learn a lesson from the Enterprise E build that I did, and I want to make an armature of sorts that will connect this pylon to the other pylon. So I'm thinking what I'd like to do is introduce two rods here that go on either side of the tab that sticks out. You can see here there is a tab that the pylon goes into, and what I'll end up doing is drilling a hole here on this side of the tab and on this side of the tab, and sinking these tubes. These are tubes, these are not rods. These are tubes that I will sink into the hull right here, and I will put them in place with some epoxy putty, the quick drying stuff, and then I may have to reinforce that with some other types of putty. If you can see down here on the table, what I've got is basically a structure that looks like that. Then I'm going to solder together. That'll be fun. We'll see how well that goes. And then I have these rods. This is a solid rod. This is not a tube. And I will sink as much of it as I can into the four locations on these pylons. Now, because of the bend in this, I can only go in about yay far. So that's about an inch, maybe 3/4. But if I can put a piece of brass in that far and then fill the whole channel in the center and come out the other side and attach the other pylon to it, that will reinforce them against each other, which is the important thing. It's not just a matter of sinking it into the hull, it's going all the way through and attaching it to the other pylon that's really going to give me the extra support. And what I'm going to do is probably drill these a little bit oversized so that I could put that in there, and then put some JB weld in the hole and kind of jockey it and hold it in position, and make sure that it's straight up and down and plumb and true and all those good things. So the first thing I need to do is get these four pieces ready to be joined, such that, and I need to find a nice spot on my cutting mat where I've got all of the, so that I can make sure everything is parallel to each other before I do these up. And I've got my little square here, my little right angle square, so I can do all of that. So let's take care of that, and we'll see how it goes. Well, look at this. This didn't turn out too half bad. Nice little H-frame here with two tubes running down, appropriate spacer in between. What I would like to do now is to map out the holes that need to be drilled in the exterior, and once I do that, then I can solidify this in place. But it's been quite the week for metal work, so I'm looking forward to hopefully this installation will go nice and smooth, and that will be I think that might be the last of the, certainly the last of the brazing slash soldering slash welding, but maybe the last of the big time construction. So I'm going to just start with one hole. Because you got to start somewhere, and then I will pass this through, and that will help me mark the other hole. I'll point the end of this so that when I jab it through, that will mark out the other holes. I've got this set in the cradle. I can set it in the cradle and get it nice and level. Again, I know my table is level, so if I can make this level, then everything is good. So this will set in, and I'll put a level across it so that I know it is going in correctly. I might have to get one of those small bubbles that is, because this level is too big, I might have to get just one of those bubbles that has a plastic frame on either side of it and just sit it here in the center. It's the center segment of a string level. You've seen those, they hook onto a string, and then you run the string between 2 points, and that'll tell you if the string is level. That's what I'm going to have to do here, because I don't have a single level that's narrow enough to fit down in here. Okay, so these may look like blood spots, but they're not. Now, given my history with builds, you're completely right to think that. But what I've done is I've taken the metal rods that are going all the way through at this point, and I've sharpened them. I put a tip on them, and then I laid the pylon in where it's going to go, and then I just put a little bit of pressure on her. I put some red paint on the tip of it, and then I use that to transfer where the hole needs to be drilled for the pin. And that's all there is to do that, and I will do that, and then I will do the subsequent markings on the other side. I love the fact that this pin is very tight. That means it's going to be good and substantial. So yeah, all's working well. Once I've got all that marked out, I will use these to hold this bracket in place while I reinforce the heck out of it with putties and epoxies and every other joining material that I have. Hey, these pylons are in, and they are tighter than a tick. I will see if it's worth, well, of course I've got to pull the pylons back out, because there's much cosmetic work that needs to be done to them, but I am very happy to say that they are in, and they are glorious, and they are straight and true and all kinds of good things. Now it looks like this one is standing way up higher than this one, so I'm going to see what needs to be done on that front, and then we're going to place the deck on it to see how far off that's going to have to be pulled back into alignment. I have a feeling that's going to be a bigger struggle than I am anticipating. I just have that feeling. So I'm sorry, I get nervous and I start cleaning up things when I don't know exactly what the next step is. But if you look at that straight on, it sure looks like this guy is up too high. So let's get the deck and put it on there. Okay, I've got the top deck sitting on here and it's off level. First thing I did was to make sure this part of it was level. Make sure the bottom is level. And then sit this on top of it. And you can see, boy howdy, is it way off level. So clearly this wing needs to be bent down a little bit. Yeah, to go something like that. To level that, yeah. Okay, I know what I gotta do now. The thing this brace needs is more bracing, so I cut this little piece of wood that I can put right underneath here to secure to the front. I can epoxy that in, epoxy the bar to the wood to the bar, and that'll give it the extra support that it needs. Still have any room that I might need to run wiring I can do on either side of that. This bulkhead here would need to be drilled into to run any wiring, and that's going to have to happen because there is a strobe way at the tail that needs to be lit up, so we can accommodate that later on. But I think what I want to do now is just go ahead and whip up some epoxy and set that piece of wood in place. Good morning, everybody. It's Friday, last work day of the week. You know, I'm starting to feel bad for this Grissom, and I'll tell you why. It's not. I'm to the point now where it's not the most fun and it's not the sexiest work that I'm doing on it. That will come when it comes to painting and putting in whatever lighting I want to put in. But more fun and more sexy things are happening outside of the Grissom build this week than are happening with the Grissom build this week. So once again, I'm going to push the Grissom aside, just like I did when I got that Jupiter 2 set up. I'm going to push this aside, and I'm going to show you a model that I will probably be working on as soon as I get back from Wonderfest, while I am waiting for supplies for this. And it is yet another submission from my good friends over at Cosmic Scale Models, which means you know this is a 3D printed kit. It's from Keith Tomlinson over at Cosmic Scale Models. I've already dove into the box just to see, but I want to tell you that such care in the packaging. It came with a notice saying, please take care separating the two halves of the ship so as not to break off any locating pegs. I thought that was so nice that I kept it and stuck it on the inside of the cover. This is made by Elves, because I have not seen any 3D printing ever yet that had come out as smooth as this. This is the Galactica Shuttle, in case you had not noticed. Let me move all of this stuff out of the way. And he has taken yet another leap and bound in his 3D printing. If the first, or if the Delta, or the Delta Flyer that I built of his, if that was a DVD quality, say, then this Galactica Shuttle is Blu-ray quality, as far as an improvement over what he had done before. And if you have to ask, that would mean the original travel pod that I had so much trouble with would have been the equivalent of a crappy VHS tape with bad tracking issues. But look at this. This is just supreme. Now, the true test of any 3D printed thing is how many facets do you see? Is there a lot of, you know, stepped angles, or are the curves very smooth? Well, I gotta say they are very exceptionally smooth on this. So he either stepped up to a higher quality printer or has just put more polygons into his builds. Now, I will say on the offset, just on the first impressions of this, this comes out as I mean, it could be the white vinyl or the white resin that he's using. This comes off as a little thin. Yes, I know, until it's built up I won't know for sure, but this could be a light blocking issue if you plan to light it as thin as it is. But I am not going to look at those locating pins. Look at these big beefy locating pins just everywhere that you need it. This is the kind of stuff that model makers will need to know when they are making 3D kits. This is the final frontier when it comes to 3D printed kits, is engineering the parts better. Look at that fit. Can be perfectly squeezed together. Beautiful. I do not, if there's any flaw in here that I have not seen so far, is that I have not seen any clear bit for the window. But I don't know that I would put one in anyway, since you've got an interior that you want to be able to see. You certainly wouldn't put a 3D printed window in, so maybe I would cut some clear, either a PETG or something off of a soft drink bottle that I could put in there. But we've got a floor pan that is excellent. I am digging this. That he is a true maestro when it comes to engineering your 3D parts. Oh, okay. There, it has to fit in between there. He's got reinforcing ribs in. Everything's beautiful there. Let me go ahead and pop this back now. No, I want to show you this piece. This piece is the top deck. See how it goes in. I haven't looked at the instructions, so I don't know exactly how this stuff is supposed to function. I believe that it goes... I'm imagining, there you go, something like that. Something like that. So that you have the two decks in here. Or, no, I bet you I've got it wrong. I bet you I've got it wrong. I bet you that it doesn't even go there. I bet you it sits up like that. It probably sits up like that. Haven't looked at the instructions very well yet, but we'll go ahead and put these back together. But this is going to be an absolute joy to work on. And of course these are the multitude of engines. And we got, again, excellent water slide decals and very excellent printed instructions. I'll go ahead and put this packaged like you wouldn't believe it. This went from, of course this came from the UK to the US, and it was one of those mysterious things. I was tracking it, I had the tracking number, watched it leave the UK, and then it disappeared. It disappeared into the void of I don't know where this thing is. We have no tracking number. And then all of a sudden it shows up on the doorstep. It's one of those deals, if I had known it was coming, I'd have baked a cake. No, if I had known it was coming, I'd have sat and waited for it. But I didn't expect it that. Look at this. Look at that. One-piece ladder. Beautiful. I'll be building this with the gear down, sitting in a bay, because not only did he send me this beautiful kit, and look at the people. Now, I will go ahead and tell you, sir, you have gotten much better at people. These are the people that are going on it. The one thing, it wasn't a flaw, but it was an area for improvement on the Delta Flyer, was with the characters. I thought that the proportions were a little cartoonish, but these characters are immaculate. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. But wait, there's more. Excuse me. These are some supplemental parts. Everything's nicely identified with the logo and stamp. Let me see. We've got a packet of details here. Okay, we have a clear dashboard for lighting. Excuse me. But again, like I said, I don't see any. And these are all the chairs. I don't see any windshield. Man, you're getting everything today. Sneezes and coughs and all that. Beautiful chairs. Looking forward to diving into this when I get, that's the ramp face. Diving into this when I get back. Again with the beautiful instructions. Now they're not the glossy printed Delta Flyer instructions, but that might have been a little bit of overkill. These grayscale instructions are just fine enough as they are. Well, I mean, they're printed in color, but the paper is not glossy. This is going to be an absolute thrill to build. Designed by Cosmic Scales, concept by Charles Adams, CG designed by Don Bergen, CG supervisor Lee Stringer. Lee Stringer worked on freaking Galactica. So, you know that the pedigree on this is not surpassed. I'll put these back, but I will say, in addition to the figures and the ship itself, he also sent me a ready handful of other supplemental stuff. Like, well, here's a land ram to go in the base. That land ram is bleeding beautiful. Simple, 2 pieces. I would love to see him do a, well, that's almost the base of a Lost in Space chariot there, so something like this you could easily do, expound on that and do all kinds of marvelous things. Everything's packed in its own little box. Of course, I've got business cards and stickers I'm happy to put up. Land ram, and this is a box of miscellaneous stuff that he sent. Set dressings. I think he saw me doing the Delta Flyer and decided this time to put me out of my misery and actually send me the stuff. But the Viper Bay accessories, we've got it. He must have leprechauns working on these things for him. I can't believe the quality of the prints he's getting. Okay, so we have tool lockers and forklifts. This is a like a engine block mount lifting rig. Oh, this is gonna be great, and more people. More people is always better. And rolling tool carts and the things. So yeah, we're going to get elaborate with our setup here, but like I said, it's going to be set up with landing gear in a bay situation, not a flight situation. So we can exploit the fact that the engines won't have to be lit because it's not going anywhere. But I can maybe put a light in the interior, and I haven't. My mind is a whirl. But look at that. And it fits right up inside the garage of the shuttle. So we've got that greatness going on. And that's why I said it's almost unfair to have all this joyful beautifulness next to put this wonderful packing material back in. Next to the Grissom, but the Grissom has to get this much done to it before we can go to the next thing. So now that I've spoiled you with all the views of things that are coming out, let's get back to the Grissom. Today's goal is a simple one. Going to continue the armature work that I did here yesterday. I want to get the pylons balanced in such a way that the top deck sits on it correctly. I need to cut these in half, slice them off there. That'll give me 4 pins that I can put in each of the pylons so that I can maneuver them individually. And so I'll put those in and glue them. And that way they'll only come into about halfway, which is still plenty of reinforcement. But it's going to be easier that way than trying to force them into each other like I was doing yesterday. Alright, so I've just done the thing that I like to do probably most of all. And that is I just cut a mock-up here. Cut a template, cut a jig. That's what it was. It's not an Irish jig, it's a good old American jig. But what has to happen is that these 2 points here have to end up being parallel to each other and square to each other. So what I've done is I've taken the top deck, which is a heavy thing, and I traced it out. I traced it out on a piece of Trovasil. Now Trovasil is my go-to for this kind of work. First of all, it's a plastic, it's not a wood. Trovasil is a brand name, but it is basically a 1/8 inch thick piece of PVC sheet stock. Thicker than styrene, yeah, thicker than styrene. You can't really get it in styrene in this thickness, practically. And it comes in 20 by 30 sheets. Actually, you can get it in a 4 by 8 sheet, but I can't carry that around anywhere. So you go to a sign shop or a sign supply place, and I get 20 inch by 30 inch sheets cut. And I just traced out the overall dimensions of this onto this, and like I said, this is like 5 times heavier, and I don't really need to be jockeying this around for the time that I'm going to be using this. So that protects that piece, and I can cut this up later and use it for many other helpful things down the road. But what this is going to allow me to do is to orient the pylon tops, so I can just wrap tape around here. And before we're done today, since it is the last work day of the week, I will be able to mock up how the ship is going to look in its entirety and put it on the fancy new stand that I made. See, there you go. See, now I can look at that and say, and see whether or not the deck is going to be parallel. So I'll take all these parts apart that I just stacked together. Let's go ahead and level this up on my foam stand here. Now that I know that is level, I can put this on, cross your fingers, your toes, and your eyes, and that's just a little touch out of level. It needs to go just a little bit like that, and now we're level on the deck. So we know we've created a, yeah, that's a little bit off. So we know we've got a little bit of tweaking to do here to pull one side up or down depending to get this level. Now that's only side to side. Front and back, front to back is a different animal. We'll deal with front to back later on, but we'll start with side to side. Okay, that's level. That's level. Now when we put this down, that is no longer level, and it needs to come up on that side about 1/8 of an inch. So I can tell that either this needs to go down to 1/16, which is more than likely. Bend that down a little bit. Bend this up a little bit. Again, we re-level this. Okay. Now I can tighten up these joints. Yes, we have levelness here. So now I can wrap some tape around this. And we can now see how the rest of this ship is going to look. And here you have the first very rough assemblage. Oh, that's going to be huge when it's done. But the very first rough assemblage of how the Grissom is going to be carried. And you see how it's, this of course has all separated here because it's none of this is glued together and attached, but that'll show us how our different sections of hull are relating to each other. There you go. Everything is in place and looking lovely. My concern is that this weight of the pontoon is it really tells me how much I'm going to have to reinforce this joint right here to hold up the pylons. Now it's going to be epoxied, it's probably going to be pinned. I might even put some screws down into that. That might be worth investigating. Some wood screws down in from the plate into the top of the pylon to hold those tight. The important thing is that it looks straight from this perspective. If I look straight on the bow of that, the deck plate is square, or is straight across, or level, any of those terms. But you can see some of the work that has to be done up in here. That's a whole different animal. This is where I wanted to be by the end of this week, and I'm very happy with getting just the preliminaries done. You can see how it rests on that base. You can see how the pontoon hangs down levelly, and all of that. So, yay! Great steps. This needs to be moved out just a little bit further. There we go. It has to, I had it too far back, but there you go. Now, figuring out how to run wiring through all of this is going to be the next big challenge. And I think that's going to do it. Between the sexy stand that I made on a Monday and the armature for the inside of the ship, I think we're in good stead, particularly for a kit that I really wasn't really planning on starting so soon. I was waiting for those other ships to come in. I just didn't expect them to both come in so quick, so one on top of the other. So now I've got to flip a coin as to which one of those I want to work on next. We'll not be doing a lot more on the wee Grissom. On the Grissom before Wonderfest, because I actually want to go there and pick up some lighting for it. It's going to ironically be quicker. I mean, I could order a light board from Ralph or from Randy, for one of the other people. I could order that today and not know when it's going to get in, or I could go to Wonderfest and pick something off the shelf that I know is there and probably still get it in the same amount of time, because even if it came back next week, I wouldn't start working on it. So I think I will postpone that purchase until Wonderfest, but it'll give me an idea as to the best way to handle it. Now, there are no navs. I mean, the navs are all constant. It's just a colored light that's on. There are windows that are lit. There is about 5 or 6 strobes, but there are just steady, constant on running lights, so I don't have to worry about making those blink. I only need one good strobe circuit for it. That can handle a lot of bulbs, and I got to figure out the best way to channel through all of this resin to get those bulbs out there. That's going to be the main treat, is try to do all of that. So we'll figure out how that's going to happen. I might start doing some of that next week, even though we're coming up on Wonderfest very fast. I can see the oncoming light of the train that is Wonderfest, and I need to pull out what I'm going to take, make sure that it's been touched up, patched up, cleaned off, dusted, redusted, any little paint smudges get taken care of, and then packed away and ready to go. So I hope to see you, as many of you there as can make it. Until then, be safe, be smart, be good to each other, and be here next time to see what kind of madness I will have wrought by then.